What can I do for you guys? What do you want to, what do you have questions about?
Well, so one of the first questions I have was on fingering for chords.
Okay.
I haven't seen too much content in the class that actually went into the fingering for them.
For chords, absolutely yes, there is nothing. And that is because the only thing I chase you for fingering on is the scales. Um, Coming to a comfortable place of fingering for chords takes years. So as long as, a student doesn't look awkward or in pain, I'm not going to chase you down on it. The course is not about really learning how to play the piano. The course is about being able to reasonably demonstrate theory, principles, and concepts. So that's why there's none of that. So I hate to disappoint you, but it's just not doable in 30 days.
I understand. It's kind of why if there was any focus on it.
There really is no, to my knowledge, no central focus in any one course about you're just learning to play the piano this term. Um,
Perfect.
I don't think that's going to happen anywhere. As I said, any of the keyboard skills here are just for you to be able to demonstrate theory concepts and not have any pain or ridiculous awkwardness. I understand that I don't have a whole full sections of people with 12 years of classical piano training, and that's part of the deal. I have people with a small amount of experience up to once in a while I do get somebody with 12 years of classical piano training, but those are exceptions and not the rule. So it's really just to give you a functional ability to demonstrate how harmony works and to be able to discuss it intelligently as a producer. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Alrighty. So I don't mean to disappoint. I will be happy to give you answers to any questions you may have about it. But generally
Well, I
speaking,
didn't have anything specifically.
yeah, it's not going to show up in the course. Using smooth voice leading is not required for you this month. It's coming down the road, which is why I throw it in. I make all those options available. If it is overwhelming, I'd prefer you guys just went through the progressions and just like did bear claw root position stuff. And perhaps on your own time without the pressure of feeling like, oh my God, I have to get this right for a grade. On your own time, fool around with the information you've been given to start to use the inversions for smooth voice learning. So that's just a sort of a like, chill, don't stress too much about it, but it's coming down the road, which is why I planted it anyway, and I'm just not demanding that it be done. So, are you talking about, do you want to talk about the progressions that you've already given evaluation one for, or do you want to talk about the upcoming week? So let me just talk about the upcoming progression then. It's in, this week is D major and B minor, right? And the major progression is 16257, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. I remembered correctly. Okay, so I don't even know. I should just pull up the sheet because remember, when you invert chords, you have three possible ways to play a triad. You can play it in root position, you can play it in first inversion, that's an option, and then your third option is you can play it in second inversion. There's sort of a domino effect when you choose inversions. Whichever inversion you choose, since you have three ways to choose from either root, first, or second inversions, whatever you choose is going to affect what you choose in the next chord as far as the three options of inversions to get there smoothly. In other words, if I could phrase it a different way, if I start the first chord of a progression off in first inversion, it might not work to play the next chord in first inversion. It might not be smooth voice leading to play it in second inversion either. It might be smooth voice leading to go to the next chord in root position. However, if I started in root position, when I go to the second chord, it might be better to go to second inversion of the next chord. You see what I'm getting at? You have three options and everything changes everything else. It's a domino effect. Whatever you choose for a chord, when you move to the next, it affects that choice as well. Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool.
It was kind of a light bulb moment realizing that the smooth voice leading kind of helps your fingering in general, just making it easier to play.
Indeed it does. Indeed it does. And honestly, just my little take on this. Oh wait, we want week 2. Let me copy week 2 so I can just pull it out and look at these materials at will. It may seem a little odd, or it may start to click for you what I'm about to say, but it seems to me when you're working through these 3 different options, and if I choose to play the first chord in the progression one way, how am I going to get to the next chord in the progression since I have 3 options, blah, 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 blah. Um, some of the the sheets that you'll find in the skill evaluation packages. Let's look at the progression right here. There you are. Come on, progression. Some of these options, see, I gave you 2 options in this one. Generally speaking, it strikes me that even as a pianist, and that's where I'm going to have to say, like, I have an unfair view on this because I'm a lifelong trained pianist from childhood. So I'm going to see things a little differently and not with fresh eyes. I do remember learning everything. Believe me, I remember struggling with it and learning everything. But, it darn well better be in my system so I can do it with my one eye tied behind my back. But what my point is here is that it seems like between these 2 choices, for example, one of the choices is really easy on your hands. They just flow right to the next chord easily with really smooth voice leading. But it's really hard to think through. It like hurts your brain to try and get those things lined up and spell the chord right in the inversion that's really easy on your hand. Whereas the other option frequently is a little more hard on your hand. It's kind of hard to manipulate around and get your hand in the right place, but it's really easier to think through. So that's just my observation. I don't know if you guys will find it that way. But so here we go. Yes, 1 6 2 5 5 7, excuse me, in D major. So, again, you're encouraged but not required. I'd rather see you play the progression correctly in root position and fool with the smooth voice leading on your own. I gotta say though, I was really, really happy to see that almost all of the submissions for the evaluation one, almost all of them use smooth voice leading. And it didn't change anybody's grade. It's just, yay, good for you, because as you move forward, you're going to need that skill, which is why I toss it out now. So, if we start in D major, we get a D chord in root position here. That's D, F sharp, A. It's a nice, easy visual aid, and it beats the daylights out of trying to flip my camera up and down and up and down, and my keyboard be upside down to you guys anyway. So, if we're in D major, our first option here, we'll look through... And another minor disclaimer before I move forward. Just because smooth voice leading is smooth doesn't mean it is theoretically, traditionally, and technically good and well done. For example, in hardcore old school traditional music theory, moving in parallel motion is a major no-no. But we do that all the time in these. The other side of that is in contemporary sounding music, moving in parallel motion is no big deal. People do it all the time. So there's all sorts of degrees of smooth voice leading, whether it's good. Being smooth and being traditionally correct and good are 2 different things, is all I'm getting at. So if I have D, F sharp, A for my first chord, the next chord I need is 6. What's the 6th chord in this key? Anybody? Anybody there? Say again. Excellent, correct, Sheridan. Good. So, and I'm going to go to that in root position, but if I play, remember your smooth voice leading rules. Generally speaking, you should not have any one, and each of the components of the chord, here's the D major chord, root, 3rd, 5th. Each of these components is referred to as a voice. So you cannot have, in good smooth voice leading, any one voice jump more than the interval of a third. And it doesn't matter whether it's major or minor. It's just a third. That's all we care about. So that means if I go D, F sharp, A, And my option here says go root position to stay smooth. Well, if I go D, F sharp, A, and I jump all the way up 6 notes to B, D, F sharp, to the B minor 6 chord in this key, I took the D up to a B, I took the F sharp up to a D, and I took the A up to an F sharp. I jumped a sixth. That's not smooth voice leading. I clearly exceeded more than a third in jumping distance of each of the voices. So if I'm going to do D, F sharp, A and stay in root position, now granted everything's moving parallel. This is where I'm saying smooth voice leading is not necessarily traditionally the most pleasing to our ear and traditionally acceptable choice, but it's smooth voice leading. I'm going to go down to the B minor, and in that case, the D moved down to B. That's a third. I just made the rule. F sharp moved down to D, and the A of the D chord moved down to F sharp of the B chord. So that's traditionally not very good smooth voice leading, but it is smooth. So that's your choice right there. D major, B minor. If I'm going to go to the 2 chord in this key, what's that chord? What's 2 chord in D major? Anybody? Yes. In D major. Say again? E minor. Yes, ma'am. Good for you. So we want to go to second inversion. I'm going to fool around with it in a different spot just to get the right inversion here. So E, G, B is my chord. That's my E minor chord. First inversion, I take that root, the E, and throw it up on top. That gives me G, B, E, but that's first inversion and I need second. I put the G up on top again. That gives me B, E, G. But of course, I'm way too far away from where I was. I'm just going to take this second inversion, B, E, G, and play it down here. B, E, G. Well, if you remember a second ago, I was playing the B minor chord, B, D, F sharp. I'm leaving the B in place and just taking the D up to E and the F sharp up to G. So that's very good smooth voice leading too. And that's my 2 chord. And I need a 5-7. What's 5-7 in this key? Yes, A7. Got to be careful. Okay. A major 7 is A, C sharp, E, G sharp. A major 7. When a chord designation is just a letter number and a 7, that means it's a dominant 7th quality chord and nothing else. And if you look here, granted this is a Roman numeral interpretation, there's nothing between the Roman numeral and the 7. Okay, so you got to be careful with that. If you guys say A major 7, that's the wrong chord. That's this. And we're in the key of D. There's no G sharp in the key of D. So it's wrong on a number of counts. It's not wrong. To call this A major 7 means this. It's just not diatonic in this key. There's nothing wrong with it as a chord. It's a beautiful chord. It just doesn't belong in the key of D diatonically because there's no G sharp in the key of D. Make sense? So we got to call it a 5-7 chord is just a letter name and the 7. Okay, so here's A7, and we know that's diatonic because there's G natural, and there is a G in the key of D major, right? Okay, so something else that I really don't point out a lot, you know, I'm not pounding on you guys to get this right, but I do chase campus students around on this. It's coming for you. I just don't want to beat you guys up too much. When you assemble a scale, I'm going to ask you a couple questions just to get you set up as far as, just get your thinking set up about what I'm talking about in theory. So let's take a moment. When you set up a major scale, there's only 2 locations where a half step occurs, right? Think about it. You got it? Okay, what are those 2 locations between what scale degree and what scale degree? And the other location between what and what? Perfect. Yes, absolutely perfect. It's between 3 and 4 and 7 and 1. So even when you're playing a major scale, the whole steps are, we're cool, we're bopping along. When you get the half steps, as subtle as it may seem or as unrealistic as it may seem, the half steps actually are points of tension even in a simple melody. If you play a simple melody, let me be in D major here. Can you guys hear that? Okay, because I'm going through the headset and I'm not going through my open mic. Okay, so um, let me just play a simple melody. Here's D major. Major scale, you guys recognize that? No sweat. Let me just make up a little melody and see if I can show you the points of tension while I beat the daylights out of my favorite toy. Does it feel like I'm done? I stopped on the fourth scale degree. The fourth scale degree in the worst way wants to pull down to the third scale degree. Now, granted, I still didn't hit tonic, so let me play a very similar little melody, but let me, instead of stopping on 4, let me stop on 3 and see if it seems less tension filled. That was lousy. Let me do that again. There you go. I went 4 to 3. Don't humor me. Tell me truthfully. Didn't it seem a little bit like, okay, that wasn't tonic, but I didn't feel quite the tension? Now, if I go back to tonic, it's like, oh, whew, thanks, resolution. I'm just playing a melody. And so all I'm doing by this is just trying to point out to you that even in constructing melodies, there are points of tension between that third and fourth scale degree because it's a half step, and especially between the 7 to 1, or I call it 8 incorrectly. I believe technically incorrectly, I say 7 to 8 because I want you to be clear that 7 goes up to this first scale degree repeated an octave higher. In other words, I don't want you to be thinking do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Nope. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, do. It goes up. So 7 always resolves to 8, and 4 always wants to resolve to 3. Well, I shouldn't say that's cast in stone. A lot, especially in diatonic harmony that we are dealing with. That's going to be the case. For this month, it's sort of the I-95 of how harmony is going to work in a diatonic setting, which is what we're discussing mostly this month. Things can get weird. You can do all sorts of bizarre harmony as you move forward, but let's get the diatonic groove down. So 4 goes to 3, 7 goes to 8. You with me? You guys good? Okay, so the reason I went to all that trouble is because I want you to see that part of the reason, if you remember all the discussion of function in the first week, functional harmony, what chord has the most tension in it? Chord, when you're building harmony out of a major scale. Yep, 5 chord has the most tension, and if you make it a 5-7, it's even worse. And let's look at why. Here's D major. First scale degree, second scale degree, third, fourth. F sharp to G is 3 to 4. A is 5. B is the 6th scale degree. C sharp is the 7th scale degree. And there's back to tonic, right? So there's that 7, 8. Of course, you know, 7 is called the leading tone. And the leading tone always wants to resolve up by half step. So the leading tone is a point of tension, and the 4th scale degree is a point of tension. So let's form our A chord. Let's form our 5 chord in this key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be an A chord, as you guys know. So A, C sharp, E. Well, look at that. It's got the leading tone in it right there. Right? You with me? Okay, so because the leading tone in the key of D is C sharp. C sharp wants to resolve up to D in the worst way. So generally speaking, we want to see this go there, right? But that's not very good voice leading. We're kind of jumping a bit far there. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's make matters worse. Let's make it an A7. A, C sharp, E. What's a minor 7th above this root note? In this key, be careful, stay diatonic. What's the note I'm looking for to make this an A7? It's G. Make sense, Sheridan? It's a G. There you go. Okay, so now I have root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Root, 5th scale degree of the key we're in, D major. third of the chord component. The chord is built with a root, a third, a fifth, and a seventh. You with me? So there's two ways to look at this. I'm talking about the root of the chord, the third of the chord, the fifth, and the seventh chord. Let's see, when I look at those pieces, those building blocks, where do they belong in the scale? Well, the root of this chord is the fifth scale degree of D. The third of the chord is the seventh scale degree that really wants to resolve up to back to tonic. The fifth of the chord is the second scale degree of D major. And the seventh of the chord, root, third, fifth, seventh, the seventh of the chord is the 1, 2, 3, fourth scale degree of the key we're in. Where's all the tension in half steps? 4 and 7. Here's 7, here's 4. Do you see that? That's why dominant seventh chord is so tension filled. Okay? And 7 wants to go to 8 in the worst way, and 4 wants to go to 3 in the worst way. So let me make a little noise on this while you can still see what I'm doing. Okay, so here's A7. I'm going to take just 7 to 8 and 4 to 3. 4 to 3, and it'll sound pretty good. And when I resolve 4 to 3 and 7 to 8, I'm left with which two notes? What am I left with? When I resolve 7 to 8 and 4 to 3. What two notes do I end up with? Say again? Yes, ma'am, that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, I thought it was a trick question.
No, 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 no. I usually warn you guys when it's a trick question.
I was just staring at the screen. Okay.
No, you're good. You're good. It's the first scale degree and the third scale degree of the key we're in, which implies what chord of the key we're in. It's not the full chord, but it sure looks like what chord of the key we're in. Yeah, well, careful, not root, tonic. Root and tonic are not the same thing. Every chord has a root. If I'm playing a D major chord and it's the one chord, this is its root, D. If I'm playing the two chord, it's an E minor chord, and E is the root of the chord. You got it? If I play the 3 chord, it's F sharp minor. F sharp minor is the 3 chord of the key we're in, but F sharp is the root of the chord. The root just means, just like the root of a tree, it's the bottom starting point. And everybody, really common, Chris, if that was you, really common. So many people interchangeably use the word root and tonic. They're not the same. The only time they are the same is when you're talking about the one chord. When you move on to, it makes sense? When you move on to every other chord, you have a different chord, but every chord starts with its root. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So here's our A7. It's got that leading tone and that fourth scale degree. They're just dying to go 7 to 8 and 4 to 3. Now, the reason I started this whole discussion was one of the things I chase down campus students for is they must, in smooth voice leading, they are required to make the leading tone resolve up by half step properly. That's why it says proper leading tone resolution right here, but you guys aren't required. What that means is you have to choose an inversion of your 5-7 chord that'll make it really easy for that 7th scale degree to move up by half step back to the tonic, or the first scale degree, okay? Easiest way to do that, this is your A7 root position, but if you just take the A, put it up on top, there's that leading tone right there. You have C sharp, E, G, A. That's first inversion of your 5-7 chord, your A7. Literally, you just keep your finger on the A and go D and F sharp, and you're back at tonic, and your 7th scale degree resolved up properly by half step back to tonic like it's supposed to. So that's a little kind of extra thing that'll be coming at you down the road. And the reason I don't press you guys is I'd rather you got it right than fooled around with inversions and ended up playing completely wrong chords. I had a couple instances within the valuations where, for example, let's look at the difference between a 2 chord and a 4 chord in any key. But since we're in D major, let's look at D. The 2 chord in D major is E minor, right?
Yeah.
The 4 chord in D major is what? What's the four chord?
D major.
D like David, the key we're working in.
Oh, the fourth? That'd be G major.
Correct, that's G major, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I slip from E minor and I slip my finger accidentally down to this D, okay, the three chord, I'm sorry, the two chord, my bad. Two chord is E minor. The four chord is G major. If I'm playing an E minor chord and I slip and put my finger on this D instead, I now have G, B, D, but the D's down here. When I wanted a two chord with minor quality, one slip of the finger, and you now have a four chord that's major quality.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't press you guys. I want you to, to be thinking about that. And I had a couple instances where, somebody just slipped around and hit the wrong thing. It's like, well, oopsie, now you're wrong. So, but do you see how the smooth voice leading's working?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. Um, Go on.
I liked in your lecture video with on campus how you mentioned like the voice leading kind of opens a gateway for like melody embellishment.
Yes, indeed.
And you had mentioned if you can kind of see that at this point, and I mean, I can kind of really see where opportunities start to open up with
Mm-hmm.
um, building on your chordal structures coming from being like kind of at the start of learning music theory. I can kind of see where that can lead to.
Yep. Great, great. For example, I'll show you the same deal. Let's go. Let's just look at this progression. Whoops, wrong one. Let me go back to the major progression. Okay, if I have to go 1 to 6, I'm in D major. I'm going to go root position, and I'm going to fiddle around on the top a little to get there. I'm just filling notes in. So that's exactly what you're talking about. Let's look at the other option where I go my one chord, my D major in root position, but when I go to the sixth chord, another option, I'm going to first inversion. So that would be D major. My sixth chord is B minor, but this is root position. I want to go first inversion. That means I take the B, put it up top here. So this is one of those deals where I think the second one is really easy on your hands, but might require a little more brain power. Okay? So if I start with D major, D F sharp A, if I go D F sharp B, I now have the sixth chord in first inversion. But I had to think a little harder to get there. Even though I did, I should say. It's funny because, talking through this stuff on campus, um, a lot of times I'm like speaking at light speed. I'm shouting out inversion spellings and stuff. Once I get it from the students, I don't expect you guys to remember it instantly. You're going to have to put some time into practicing, but when I'm trying to get their hands to just go through, I'll be shouting out like inversion letters, like blah, 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 and a lot of times I just like lose it and I forget what key I'm even in. Anyway, let me play that root position to first inversion and I'll embellish a little like you're talking about, Chris. So here's D major, B minor. Oops, if I play one note. Okay, so same deal. And that was just the top prominent voice. You can do it with inside voices. Let me see if I can do that. And that usually is the kind of stuff you write for, interesting inside parts that you kind of get a sense of like, oh, I'm not sure what that was, but it sounded great. Your listener comes away going, ooh, I don't know exactly what happened because it wasn't the top voice that our ears usually catch. It's an inside voice. Uh, I just went because they need the same note. I changed two that time. So, I'm just supporting your point, Chris, that, yeah, it gives you a lot more options to make nice little melodies and, do a little more creative movement just between and create a little more interesting lines when you're using inversions.
Clarifies how melody works with harmony.
Yep. Yep. Remember, there's like, in my opinion, there are a couple overarching principles in music theory at the basic ground level, okay? Um, One of them is Are we talking about being at rest at a point of resolution? Or are we talking about tension? Real simple principle. You're either dealing with tension or resolution. And when you understand harmony and can manipulate it, basically what you're looking to do is use your understanding of how your listener feels when, whether they realize it consciously or not, they sense tension and then resolution. Or then there's the ever popular deceptive cadence. What's a deceptive cadence go to? Where does a five chord go in a deceptive cadence?
I think anything other than a one
Yeah.
to a six.
In some ways, you're correct. I believe that there are other places. That's traditional standard place for deceptive cadence to go is six. And honestly, you got me on that one. I'd have to look it up if they consider movement to other places deceptive. It's just that six is the usual standard. And that's sort of like, oh, yay, I'm going to home. Ooh, no, you're not. You fooled me. And that does something to your listener. If you know how to manipulate harmony, it, creates an emotional response of some type. And isn't that why you're doing this? You want to say something. You want to, create some kind of message.
So does counterpoint essentially relate to cadences?
No, counterpoint literally means the original name is puncta contra puncta, Latin. It literally means point against point, note against note. It is literally studying how two individual notes move in relation to each other. And it gets really messy when you're writing for four voices and then you're looking at each individual set of relationships in there. It gets pretty intense. But remember, excuse me, remember that the whole, for example, the major scale is a formula. It is formulaic. There's a mathematically limited number of possibilities because essentially a major scale is a math formula. We don't think of it that way. There's an underlying math formula that holds it in that specific formula of these specific notes in these specific order with these specific intervals between them.
To me, the more that I intake that it is a formula, it becomes easier.
Uh huh. Well, the thing is, everything is consistent across the board. And one of my little running gags in class is, I'll be asking students, okay, I'm in birthday cake major. What's the quality of the sixth chord? Now, or I get your car keys. 10, 9, 8. And what's the answer? What's the quality of a sixth chord? And it doesn't matter what key you're in. You can be in sky blue major, birthday cake major, E flat major, C major. The sixth chord it's a formula. It's based on a math formula. And the thing is that gives us consistent relationships that we can then work through and manipulate in whatever key we want. And working diatonically will set you up. Understanding diatonic harmony and being able to work in a diatonic setting and still create emotional um,
You're funny.
messages. You know, which thing? Yeah, what, Kieran? No, and the point is for students to go, what? What the hell did she say? Because if you think about it, it's a formula. I can put anything in there as long as I say major key. Because the sixth chord is going to be minor in quality because it's a formula.
No matter what.
Exactly. And the more, hey Jade, the more you can manipulate how that works in a diatonic setting, it's going to set you up to step out of a diatonic setting because we sort of take like mini instances, mini, tiny, little micro, that's a better word, micro instances of how harmony works in a diatonic setting, and we can transplant it over into somewhere it doesn't belong, where it's no longer diatonic, but it's sort of doing the same job because we understood how it worked in diatonicism. So now we can kind of dance around it a little more. Another thing, too, I just want to say about the basic principle of either tension or resolution. What we're going to come to look at more and more is that there are degrees of tension and resolution. If you think about it, a deceptive cadence is a point of resolution. It's not quite like comfy home base. It's like 1 foot in the door of comfy home base. But it's not like being stuck outside in the cold, right? As far as tension, you have a lot more options. There's going to be tension or tension or tension or tension or tension. There's going to be a bazillion levels of tension that you can manipulate. But we're just making sure we got the ground level of stuff going on. Chris, did I answer your questions? Did I address your concerns?
Yeah.
Good, good.
I have another question.
Go for it.
In
Recession.
No,
Kidding.
unless somebody else has a question.
no, that's Jay's just messing with you. You're good. Go for it.
In seventh chord, why is it that you're able to drop out the fifth?
That is an
And
excellent
does that
question.
apply to the dominant seventh chords? Because I mean that is basically molded around the fifth.
Okay, hang on. Ask me the question again. I want to make be sure I understand it clearly.
Why is it that you're able to drop out the fifth while playing a seventh chord?
More specifically, frequently a dominant seventh chord. But yeah, you can get away with dropping the
But
fifth.
really, it only applies to the dominant one.
No, nah, you just see it, at least in my experience, I see it more frequently dropped out in a dominant seventh quality chord. But it doesn't matter. Really, you can drop it out of seventh chords, and here's why. Overtone series. That's why. But that's not really answering your question. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I talk about the overtone series?
Because the seventh is added.
No. Do you guys understand? And I don't necessarily expect you to, because I don't know if there's anywhere along the line where you guys have gotten this information. I strongly recommend that you go check out, just go Google the overtone series. But let me tell you as much as I can about it right now.
Overtone series. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, overtone series.
Okay.
Overtone series, and yeah, and you'll see references to partials in there. Well, okay, let me do my best. Okay, it's kind of funny because I understand this stuff. It's real sciency, and I struggle with science, but sound is science. You guys know that, so I completely understand it. I will do my best to verbalize it and not like totally all over myself here. Okay, so let's go with the stringed instrument because it's the easiest to see. Actually, you can visually see what's going on. When you guys took sequencing, you guys all took sequencing before now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember when you had to go in and like put in a square wave and or a sawtooth or whatever? Remember all that? You had to create your own sounds, take things in and out. Part of that of what you were doing, you were messing with the overtone series and the partials. And so here it is. Okay, I got a string, and this is a joke size. I'm talking about like I got a string. Let's say I'm playing upright bass. Okay, I got an upright bass. The lowest string is an E, and it's probably, I don't know the exact. Let's say it's like 4 feet long. Okay, so that's boom. That E. When I pluck that string on a bass, that is E. Wait a minute. 3, 2. I thought it was E1. I was going to say that right.
One.
That's E1. Now, side note, it's written. Bass is actually a transposing instrument because whatever you write for a bass sounds 1 octave lower. It's just that it's easy to miss that because it's only an octave. It's the same note, but it is an octave lower. Okay, so I got that string. I go, blah. If you're watching closely enough, almost, I'm not sure, you may be able to see that string vibrate with the naked eye, right? That means that string, we're going to call that string the fundamental pitch. There is nothing lower. When that string vibrates, its whole entire 4 foot, and I'm making these distances up, just run with me. That whole 4 foot length vibrates from where it's fixed at the top to where it's fixed at the bottom. Blah, you can see it going, right? Within that string vibrating, it is also vibrating exactly from the halfway point to the stop at the bottom and the stop at the top. Those vibrations are in there. They are happening concurrently at the same time with the full string vibrating. Okay? If you actually press your finger at the halfway point, you get a note that is exactly 1 octave higher than the fundamental, the whole vibration, right? And it goes on mathematically. That string is also vibrating, the whole string. That string is also vibrating in thirds. Okay? So that means a third from there to the top is vibrating, the middle third is vibrating on its own, and the bottom third is vibrating on its own, as well as the top half and the bottom half, as well as concurrently, all of these, top to bottom, full string. All these are vibrating at once. Okay? You with me? Seems odd, and you can't see that, but that is what's going on. Now, this continues on mathematically. If I press my finger, as I said, at the halfway point on the string, I get a note that is 1 octave higher. So consequently, when that string is vibrating fully without me messing with it or touching it, the note that's produced an octave higher is also there, but not nearly as prominent. It's subtly contained. It is there, but not nearly as prominently as if I outright press the string in half, because now that becomes my new fundamental. You with me? So the full length, that pitch is in there. The halfway length, untouched, that pitch is in there. That's 1 octave higher. It's actually contained in there. Okay? The thirds, they're vibrating at the same time. If I press my finger a third of the way to stop it, I get a fifth above the fundamental. So if I play E, the first, these are called partials. They're partial sections that are vibrating, and even if you don't stop the string to make a new pitch, all these partials are present. So I have a fundamental. The first partial is an octave higher. The next partial is a fifth higher. And here's where I go off the tracks. I can't remember, but you'll get the drift. You have to look it up and you'll see. I believe the next, okay, so that's fundamental. First partial is an octave. Second partial is a fifth. The third partial is back up another octave. And I believe after that, was that the 1, 2, 3, I believe the fourth partial is a third above, whoopsie, a third above that, major third above that. Okay, so without making you crazy or totally shooting myself in the foot with misinformation, I got the general gist of it right. As you go up, the fractions become small. The portions that are vibrating become smaller and the pitches change. Okay? You with me? That's what's going on? Okay, cool. So I bored you with all that ridiculously boring science information because the second partial is a fifth, and it's pretty strong. When we play that's another reason why you don't have to double roots very often. I have my little dog friend here. You gotta leave me alone, girlfriend. Out. The first partial is an octave. Sorry?
I'm sorry. Is that also basically the same rule that applies as to why you can do a power chord like in rock guitar, where you're doing first and fifth, and you leave out the third?
Yeah, well, let me hold that thought a minute, Jade. Jade, right?
Okay.
Yeah, hold that thought. Ask me in a second. Okay, because yes, it's related. Okay, so the first partial, here's my fundamental. First partial is an octave. The second partial is a fifth, and it's pretty prominent. Even though we can't distinguish it out clearly, it's pretty prominent in just that single note. So if you have a chord that has a fifth in its construction, and every chord does, because the second partial is a fifth, that's why you can get away with dropping a repeat of that partial in the construction of the actual chord. Does that make sense, Chris? Were you the one that asked? That's why. So I genuinely do not mean to like give you over the river and through the woods. I really want you guys to understand the foundation of what's going on here.
The vibration of the note is still there, even though we may not distinguish it.
Yep. It's there. Oh, and what it does do is, if for some reason, when you guys took sequencing, what you may or may not have realized was you were moving partials. In other words, a sawtooth, and I can't remember, I don't have this down exactly. Look it up when you go research. I'll do a little research on the overtone series. For example, I'm not sure I'm right. Like, for example, a sawtooth wave has all the even numbered partials removed. That changes how things sound. You know how a sawtooth wave sounds versus a pure tone. or even a pure tone has partials removed, because a fundamental produced with all its overtones has a very rich everything, like all those overtones, all those partials make a difference to the sound. When you start plucking them out, it changes how things sound. A sawtooth has certain partials removed. Square wave has certain partials removed. If you look at it, you'll see what I'm trying to make sense out of. So I apologize for the lack of scientific brilliance here, but I'm hoping you get the drift. Okay, so on to power chords. Because a fifth is the second partial, it's just been considered traditionally since the Middle Ages to be very some people describe it as hollow sounding, but it is powerful. And Gregorian chant used to move in fifths like that. But it's nowadays that's considered, and when you get to traditional counterpoint much later after the Middle Ages, when Gregorian chant was sung in fifths and octaves and things like that, much later, like in the 16, 17, 1800s, that's when everybody started to wince when you had fifths and played parallel fifths. Moving in parallel fifths just has Bach rolling over in his grave, as well as Mozart and Beethoven. You just didn't do it. It was generally it was considered very bad voice leading to move in parallel motion, especially if it was a fifth or an octave. That's like, ow, 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 what are we doing here? Contemporarily, Jade, that's a major thing. People do it all the time. It's very that's why they call them power chords. That hollowness is equated with power. So it's related to being so close. It's only the second partial in the overtone series. But I'm sort of, like I'm flying by the seat of my pants interpreting here. Look it up. Don't take me as gospel. Do a little research on it.
It makes perfect sense to me now.
Yep.
I knew I always heard it.
Yep.
I heard it when you play the seventh chord. I know I've heard it when I play the seventh chord, even though I'm not playing the note, the fifth, the five chord. No, I knew, but I didn't know why. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. But again, look it up, because I could have some of the scientific information a little twisted. It wouldn't hurt for you to get it right from a more authentic scientific source. But that's the general gist.
Gregorian chant is, you want to chant for me?
I can't do it, but
Oh, I'm kidding.
there you go.
Oh, yeah, got you.
Jesu Christe Domine. That's Gregorian chant.
Having a brain fart. I was going to mention with that. Question. I have a Sibelius question.
Okay.
Okay, I'm in there doing my thing, but it has unlimited amounts of measures in there. How do I get it to just show the 16 that I'm doing and not show all these empty measures afterwards?
Yep. Thank you, first of all, for doing that, because it drives me crazy when I get an assignment with 64 measures.
It's bugging me right now. I kept trying everything this morning.
Let me show you something. Who haven't I said hello to while I'm digging? Daryl, how you doing, man? Glad to see you here. Okay, hang on, ma'am. I am looking. Let me pull up my Sibelius.
Enigma. That was the band I was thinking of. Enigma that does a lot of that.
Oh, really? You guys can see my screen, right? Okay, good. Because I tried to record last week. Yeah, there was a technical issue with that called, brain not functioning. I recorded the whole session with no audio. So I went and practiced ahead of time this week. Let's do that. Let me just create this without a lot of fuss. Come on, Sibelius. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right. So, honestly, I can't always remember. See this right here? Find in ribbon. And I think you guys... I just opened a document. This is an untitled document. Okay?
Yeah, I was trying to find your arrow. Okay, what do you want?
You see my arrow up here?
Yes, ma'am.
Find in document. Delete. Oopsie, get my cursor on it. Delete measures if you're looking for anything. I can tell you the answer, and to be perfectly honest, I can't remember it right offhand. I could probably just buzz in and do it and not remember to tell you. I can't remember to tell you what the exact directions are. But I am a big fan of saying, go look in the documents. This is sort of a cheat version of the documents. So if you'll go here, it'll tell you where you can find out how to delete measures. Home, bars, delete bars. Deletes the selected bars from your score. And
It didn't work.
so here, see this delete? It even lights up for you. Okay. Did you select them? Let me see what I got here. Let me go and see.
Out, but it brought on more. Do you know what I'm saying? It just added another
Okay.
set of messages.
I got what? 72, 4, 6, 8, 10. I have 80 measures here. So if I select from here to here, I should be able to hit delete. Do I want to delete these bars? Yes, I do. And now I only have 50 measures.
Okay, that's what I didn't do.
You didn't highlight what you wanted gone, like from here to there? Yeah, in order for it to be deleted, it's got to be highlighted. In order for anything to happen, it's got to be highlighted.
One click on the first one and one click on the last one and highlight the whole thing.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, careful. I'm clicking here. You can't see my hand. Magic hand. All I'm doing, let me redo that. I just clicked on this measure with my mouse. I am now pressing down, where's my finger? Pressing down Shift and
Okay.
clicking on the final. And then I'm going to hit delete and it will ask me, and I say yes, bye bye measures. Make sense?
Yes.
Um, when you have time, ha ha ha, copious free time in an accelerated program, go through some of the tutorials, like the tutorial sessions in Sibelius. That's how I learned to use it. I literally went through every tutorial. And it's just got little tricks like, if you, it's, which is an overall Mac operation, that if you hold something and hold down Shift, it's the same in a Word document. If you have a whole paragraph, now let's say you have 3 paragraphs on one page, you basically can click the first word of the first paragraph, hold down Shift, and click the last word of the last paragraph. It'll highlight everything and then you can delete it or make it all caps or do whatever you want. Very similar operation. Click the first thing, hit Shift, click the end thing, and it highlights everything for you so you then can perform some operation that you want to do. Make sense?
No.
But go up here. You can always go up there and look in that. And the beauty of it is it actually, when you click there, it highlights what you're looking for. I personally own an older version that doesn't do that for me. I go and look up the docs. I actually, you guys get a reference set. Let me see. Help, here you go. You get a reference set. I live and breathe by these reference docs. And something that is helpful is the visual index in the back.
Oh.
And I go here often when I am stuck on something. Let me make this a little bigger. Let me at least go 100. This, I can't, that's like, what? There's too much going on there. But, say I'm looking for, I don't know, how to number measures or something. I just hunt around in here. There you go. There's a lead sheet that you guys are going to have to do eventually. But nothing here is really terribly. Chord symbols. There you go. So, and here's the best part. You guys are going to have to do chord symbols. If you click here, you ready? It takes you to there in the documents.
Get out.
Nope.
Ugh. All right.
So that's right here. If you go in your Sibelius under help,
Amazing.
and I have mine downloaded. It might send you to the internet, but I have my reference book downloaded on my machine, so it just opens it for me. Cool?
I have mine way back in the dusty archives of my machine somewhere, so I just pull it back out.
I gotcha. I'm going to close this down. I'm not going to save that. What else do we got going on? Any other questions? Oh, Chardon, here we go. Identify the key, blah, blah, blah. Do I have the whole thing showing? Yes, I do. Okay. You need all those good things. Okay, so the scenario is you're going to go to a live session and they have to add parts to an existing track, so you have to give them an accurate chord chart, right? So you choose one of the tracks, blah, that's pretty easy, blah, blah, blah. Make sure, generally speaking, when I have to transcribe something, I know, I'm not looking at these instructions as such right now. When I have to transcribe, blah, 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 or even transcribe something, I listen to it doing mundane stuff around the house, like folding laundry, washing dishes, so that I'm not pressured of like, oh my God, I have to get this right. Um, and so it allows it to get into my ear, to get into my brain so that I know what's coming. I can hear it in my head before it happens because I've just listened to it without pressure. When I sit down to actually do it and the pressure's on, I'm in a much better shape and condition because I know what's coming. You know what I mean? So I encourage you to do that too. Of course, you want to listen to the track. You need the time signature, of course. And don't forget the meter and the time signature are not the same thing. They're very closely related, but they're not the same thing. For example, pardon me, for example, if I'm going can you tell what kind of meter that was? Simple or compound?
Simple.
Why? You're correct. Why?
Because you can repeat 2, 4, 1, 2.
Yep, I was in 4-4, and that's good. And I actually set you up to not be able to answer that question very well. Because in simple meter, whatever the first level of subdivision is 2 parts. So in other words, I should be going. So I had 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's the definition of simple meter. When you have a steady pulse going, the first level of subdivision is a 2. Make sense? You guys got it. Compound meter. First level of subdivision is 3. Here's my same pulse. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Here's my simple meter. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and same pulse. I'm going to make it compound meter. Divide in 3s. 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 1 lolly, 2 lolly. Not 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. I'll try and switch each measure. Simple. Compound. Simple. Compound. See how the pulse doesn't change, but the subdivision is either 2 in simple or 3 in compound. Make sense? Okay, so for our purposes this month, there are other options, but compound meter is either going to be a 6/8 time signature or a 12/8 time signature. And simple meter, although there are many other options, is going to be 4/4. Make sense? So you want to, of course, you need a metronome marking. You find the tempo by tapping on a metronome or using that website. Determining what kind of meter you're in is going to help you determine the time signature. So that's why I'm saying type of meter and time signature are not quite the same thing, but they're very strongly related. See what I'm getting at? Okay, so here's your choice of keys. Ooh, I didn't tell you what key I was in. You guys have access to pitch? Okay, so I'm not kidding. Don't play. Don't play anything. Here I go again. Whoops, sorry. Can you sing for me the tonic note? Do. The home bass note, root of the tonic chord. Think it first. Can anybody sing it? Bingo, you got it. Good. So it's this pitch. Now you're allowed to go use your pitch device and tell me if you can find the pitch. In other words, match that pitch with your voice as what you just did and locate the pitch on your keyboard. Amen. What key was I in? That was tonic. That's the root of the tonic chord. Yes, I was in C. Make sense? So, you have several different choices of keys that should show up, but you're going to go through it that way. Um, Good idea. Oh, I'm going too fast here. There we go. Once you figure out what key you're in, it wouldn't hurt to know the diatonic chords of that key you're in, right? So you're going to listen to the whole track multiple times, perhaps several my eye. You're going to listen to it a lot of times. And you're going to listen to the harmonic rhythm, where the chords change. Your friend, my dears all, is the bass line. The bass line. We hear and analyze harmony from the bottom up. Amen. No questions asked. We hear and analyze harmony from the bottom lowest note up, aka the bass line. Okay? So you do want to focus in on the bass line. It's going to be the easiest way to tell you what the chord is. This month, we are not messing with your heads or ears. Everything's going to be in root position on these projects. And I believe Aurelia all month is root position. Now, that's not to say that music isn't written with chords not in root position. It sure shooting is. But we're trying to get your ear training, and I know you haven't had a lot before now. As the coursework develops, this is one of the first courses where it's really hardcore ear training. So I'm not trying to beat you up. Music is written not in root position, but we're going to hit root position this month so you start to get the hang of it. Right? So listen to the bass line. It is critical. It's going to give you all the information really to help you figure out the chords. Okay? You want to follow the bass line. Try and pick out those bass line notes. Sing along with the bass line the same way you just found out what key I was in. I suggest you go through, a couple measures at a time. You know that music does seem to move in either 2 or 4 bar phrases. And we did not create any bizarre music that's got like a 3 measure phrase and then a 7 measure for. I'm like, we didn't do that. We went down I-95 because we're trying to get you to go down I-95. Okay. Yeah, no, you don't want to do that yet. So everything's going to be diatonic. All chords will be triads, not seventh chords, except there may be a 5/7 thrown in somewhere, and the bass will be playing the root notes. Don't be fooled by this, okay? I'm going to play in C. I'm going to be in 4/4, and I'm going to play 6 chord as my second chord. Make sense? You with me? I played C major, A minor. Don't be fooled if the bass line does this. I'm going to slam the bass line. Did you hear the little note I threw in to make a nice moving line? That is just something a bass player does to make a nice, melodic, smooth sounding melodic bass line. That is not an inversion. That's just the bass player glowing. I don't want to go. I want to go. It makes me kind of go, oh, it was so nice when you arrived there at the arrival point when you stuck that other line. That's all it is. The bass player is just making a pretty melody. That happens in some of these tracks, so don't be fooled by it. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Just saying, don't be fooled by it. And what you want to do, that's why you need to know intervals, among a zillion other reasons. The intervallic movement in the bass line is going to help you try and estimate what's going on. And seriously, look for feelings of stability or instability. The most common chords are going to be 1, 4, 5, or a 5/7. Next most common will be 2, 3, and 6, which are minor in quality. For your amusement, let me offer the fact that I take all the Aurelia and musician tests periodically so that I know exactly what you guys are dealing with. I want to kick myself into the next county when I'm listening to a progression and screw it up because I think I'm hearing a 4 chord when in fact it was a 2 chord. Aside from the bass line, I got really annoyed the last time I did. I'm like, ah! I was about to throw my computer out a window. I'm like, wait, why am I not? Why am I being dim? Why can't I get this? Aside from the bass line being different, it is easy to mishear the bass line between a 2 chord and a 4 chord because let's look in easy cheesy C major. Where am I? C major, okay? Here's the 2 chord D minor, D F A, right? You with me? Here's the 4 chord F A C. F and A are in common, D F A or F A C. What's the difference between the quality of D F A, D minor, and F A C? What's the difference in chord quality?
Minor one's major.
Exactly, bingo, which is why I finally pulled my head out from where the sun don't shine and went, duh. One of these is major and one of these is minor. Even if I'm confusing the fact that D, F, and A has F and A in common with F, A, C chord, duh, I can at least listen to the quality. Once I went, oh man, I can't believe that got past me. I got them all right after that. So pay attention to stuff like that. It's easy to misinterpret the bass line when chords share notes. Let the quality of the chords help you as well. And use your functional harmony. Your knowledge of functional harmony help you predict the progression. Now, I often tell my campus students, you want to use your ear and your smarts. You can use your smarts without your ear, and that's generally not a good idea. You can use your ear without your smarts, and that's not a good idea. But you can look at a page and use your smarts to go, oh, a 5 chord, well, a 5 chord almost always goes where? Seriously, where does a 5 chord usually go?
What do you mean, like?
When a progression moves, if you hit a 5 chord, where does it frequently go after the 5 chord?
Back to one?
Almost always, not almost always, very frequently. The 5 chord moves to 1 because it's a point of high tension that begs for resolution, and the best place to resolve to is a 1 chord. So that's what I mean by using your smarts. Use your knowledge of functional harmony to help you predict the progression, but don't assume you're right. Kind of go along the premise of, okay, I'm pretty sure that's a 5 chord. Prove it's a 5 chord. You're sure it's a 5 chord. You can now go, there's a good chance this is going to a 1 chord. Where else could it go?
Is it five and what's the other go?
By smarts, where else can a 5 chord go besides to a 1 chord?
To six?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. All those things could happen. Perfect. So, yeah, use your smarts to kind of go, all right, this could happen or that could happen. Let me make sure my smarts and my ear are both supporting each other in what I think I hear and what I know makes logical sense. Cool? All right, let's see. So once you figure out the bass line, play full chords along with the track, and please be super careful. Make sure that, and I've done this myself, transcribing stuff. Make sure that you're not playing the track so loud that you accidentally play a wrong chord and you don't realize it's wrong. Or vice versa, you're playing the track so quietly that you play a wrong chord and you don't realize it's wrong. You really have to balance, to make sure that you got the right thing going on. So, once you think you got them, play the chords along with the track, play the bass line along with the track. If it doesn't sound right, double check that your bass note is right. Check the chord quality. Like I said, don't be like Kathy and get caught on the 2 chord versus the 4 chord duh move. Compare things like obvious things like I'm not sure if that's a 2 or a 4. Oh, chord quality. One's major, one's minor. The same with 3 and 6. And that's an option, isn't it? Yeah. Same with no, I'm sorry, I lied. Ooh, I screwed up. What did I screw up? Did you guys catch my mistake? Because I said, oh, it's the same with 3 and 6. It's not.
No, it's not.
No, they're both minor. I screwed up. Sorry. So good luck with 3 and 6. Figure it out yourself. No, just kidding. Do your best. I'm just messing with you. So, yeah, if the chord doesn't sound right, go check your bass note. And check your smarts too. Like I said, try and use them hand in hand. You do want to sketch it out on a piece of paper. There's very specific directions in here telling you how to set up 4 bars per system, and that is a requirement. You will lose points if you do not have 4 bars on a line and give me 6 bars or 2 bars or 5 bars. Just some light slices, all this jazz. You guys can see that.
But if you go in and do it while you're reading your instructions, if you go in and set it up while you're reading them, it takes you in step by step how to get
Yes,
that
ma'am.
structure.
Absolutely. It takes you by the hand down the garden path. The only thing it doesn't do is actually tell you the pitches and the chords and the bass lines. That's the only thing it doesn't tell you. It tells you everything else you need to set it up properly. You're going to want to worry about the form. Now, I know this week's lecture has form stuff in it. Did you guys get a look at the form discussion in the lectures?
I have not looked at that part yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't even gotten to it.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for telling me the truth. But here you go. You ready? Official mom face.
Right, right.
Look at those lectures. Okay,
Okay, so it's part two lecture day. Okay.
you're right. You're right. You're right. And I honestly don't remember where the discussion on form is, but it really is pretty simple and direct. Okay, quick example, and it's in the lectures. If I go, Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. That's a nice clean phrase. It's whole. I'm gonna call that part A. On this farm, he had some dogs, E-I-E-I-O. That sounded exactly the same way, different words, but I'm caring about the music. That's another A. Here comes the next line. With a woof woof here and a woof woof there, here a woof, there a woof, everywhere a woof woof. Oh, that wasn't the same as the first two lines that I called A. That's a B. Last line. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. See my point? That's an A-A-B-A form, basically,
Okay.
which is a common form. And it's a teeny tiny little, kid song version of one, but it's AABA is a common form. Don't take that to mean all your examples are that. Just pay attention. Just like listen to your examples. You're here. They are structured. I'm not kidding you. Um, the tracks for you to choose from are structured to not trick you. They're structured to go, you getting it? You getting it? Here we go. We kind of made it obvious. Okay? So do your best. Don't go nuts, but yeah, you want the form. And here's the thing, like why do you think a producer would care about the form? You actually do want to
Because,
be aware of the form.
well, you're trying putting this out so someone else can play it, so you want them aware that the form is changing to
True.
be the same.
True. Good. Any other thoughts?
I mean, become more aware of where your chorus, your bridges,
Uh-huh.
your introduction are.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts?
Maybe like just well, kind of coinciding with what she said, just where the structure changes of the music itself.
Yep, yep, yep.
But
All those things are correct. And why do we care about knowing that? Because you want to make things interesting. If you have an AABA form, for example, do you want to play the two A sections the same way? Do you want the instrumentation to be the same? Do you want the dynamics to be the same? Maybe you do. And maybe when you get to the B section, you want to rip everything open and make all the instrumentation different and add backup vocals and add, in other words, knowing the form helps you make really good musical decisions. And if you give a chart, either a chord chart or a lead sheet, speak much, or a lead sheet to a musician, a good musician is going to go, okay, same section. If you're not saying anything, like I have two A sections and they see like, okay, I have two A sections, I'll play them the same the first time because I see I have a B section and I'm going to like change my strum pattern, or drummer's like, I'm going to add a backbeat on my B section or whatever. Or as a producer, you might go, hey, B section, can you drop the volume way down but give me eighth notes on the hi-hat? Or, you see what I'm getting at. It gives you a quick, easy directive where you can see a big picture of how to make things more interesting. Remember, humans, I don't know if any of you guys have kids, but geez, you know how toddlers will watch the same video for days and weeks over and over and over again. I mean, remember all the videos of parents watching their little girls watch Let It Go? I mean, little kids watched Frozen a bajillion zillion times. Human nature, and I'm saying I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Human nature actually does enjoy repetition. If we didn't have repetition in things, it'd be too much chaos. We'd be like, oh, I can't follow anything. I'm losing interest. Our brains are set up to enjoy and function organizationally in repetition to some degree. But you got to find the line between, that was a nice amount of repetition, nice organization, and, oh my God, there was too much repetition. I'm going to run screaming. See what I'm saying? So it gives you a nice, knowing the form gives you a nice overall picture to make good, intelligent musical decisions, and your musicians as well, if you give them free rein to just go, hey, change it up at the B section. See what I'm getting at? That's why we care about form. It seems kind of like, why do I care about form? It makes a big difference. It really helps you make good musical decisions. So you got it laid out on paper, and honestly, I truly suggest you do that and not just jump right into Sibelius. So it's really easy to do your chart in Sibelius. You need all these things right here. All these things. That's so funny because I'm pointing like you can see what I'm pointing at. That's so funny. So with my cursor, here I am saying these things are all required, okay? And these are just all the Sibelius directions. They really are step by step. Even I can go through them and get it right. Me, Susie Technology Challenged. I have learned so much doing this course. Anyway, so there's all this stuff. Sorry?
Before you get into here,
Mm-hmm.
can you scroll back up? I got confused on something,
Okay.
it has to do with what I watched in the class video about if you have a chord offbeat. I know it has to be.
You're talking about slash rhythm. It doesn't have to be syncopated, but you're talking about the difference between slash rhythm and slash notation. Right? Okay. That is an excellent question. Let me see if I can find that in my campus lectures. Hang on, let me find it. That would be around here.
My song chose a song as a chord change in the.
Yep, it's here. It's lecture 4. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so let me just zoom ahead to where this shows up. There's the form discussion. Okay, here we go. Slash rhythm and slash notation. Okay. So this is a good question because this is a really important difference between these two types of notation. As it says here, they each have a specific intention and purpose. Okay, so if you look here, some of the things I forgot because I was taking a snippet was this should be, we should have a 4/4 time signature, but that seems pretty obvious. The slash notation gives them, this musician reading the chart, important information. For one, the indicated harmony is present for the same number of beats that the slashes represent. And they're just slashes. And that rhythm, that harmony has to show up exactly where it's indicated, exactly the beat at which it's indicated. Make sense? So in this measure, the C chord should happen on the downbeat. The D chord should take place on beat 4. That is a very specific, clear delineation right over the slash that represents the 4th beat of the measure.
Okay.
Now, despite all that specificity, the musician in this case with just slashes that represent, hey, there's 4 beats happening in every measure. For the 4 beats in this measure, we should hear a G harmony. For the first 3 beats of this measure, we should hear a C harmony, and for the last beat, on the last beat, we should hear a D harmony. The musician is nevertheless free, right here, free to choose any appropriate rhythmic figure to sustain the harmony that is basically appropriate to their instrument. Particularly comes to mind keyboard and guitar players in particular. So if I'm reading this notation, I got a G chord, right? I can go, if I read it dead straight, which I'm not supposed to actually. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Next measure. Okay, so I played that dead straight and you don't have to. The musician is free to go, for example, from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're free to comp to make up their own rhythm that is characteristic, which is why it says professional musician will know their instrument, its capabilities, and characteristic uses in many styles. So there's no stylistic here. This could be country western. This could be, I can't think of anything else. But the point is, they are free to choose within this as long as they get C harmony on the downbeat. But even that's there's a little room for that. I mean, a guitar player could choose to play on the upbeat, and not on the downbeat, as long as the bass player's got the downbeat. And they got to have a D harmony happen on the beat 4, right? So when you're given slash notation, the musician may choose the rhythmic interpretation. The rhythmic interpretation of the harmony. Make sense?
Yes.
That's slash notation. Okay. Let's look at slash rhythm. This is slash rhythm. Okay, notice the big difference. It looks just like regular rhythm. There are stems. If it should have been a half note, it's hollow. If it should have been a whole note, it's hollow, but no stem because whole notes don't have stems. However, it is not quite regular notation. It's flattened down or squared. This is flattened down, that head is flattened down, and these are squared in shape. Stems are used, of course, where they're appropriate. When I do this, that is when the performer must play the harmony in the rhythm, in this exact rhythm, because I have an exact rhythm delineated here, unlike here where I'm just saying, hey, these slashes tell you, yeah, there is 4 beats in a measure. This rhythm specifically says A, D, D, A, D, E, 2, 3, 4. Make sense? So this would down the bottom, but I didn't get there yet. So this right here must be played A, D, D, A, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not allowed to comp in this measure. I have to just hit the E chord and hold it for 4 because that rhythm is very specific. So the performer must play the harmony in the rhythm that is shown, and they have no choice. That's slash rhythm. And here is a mix of both slash notation and slash rhythm. Slash rhythm has specific rhythm in it. So here I got 4 beats where an F harmony has to take place, 4 beats where a C harmony has to take place, and the musician is allowed to choose. First 2 beats, I got F harmony, they're allowed to choose. Beat 3 has to have a B flat chord on it, and the and of 4 is where you hit the F chord. It can't be anywhere else but on the and of 4. And it's tied over to the downbeat of the next measure. Then they can play F again because that F chord is carried over. They can play F again in any rhythm they choose because this is slash notation. Does that make sense?
The first beat of that measure, right?
Say again?
Over. I get it now.
Yeah, this is a tie. It's just think of it as rhythm. It's just that it isn't actually a formed note head. It's flattened. So this example, for example, I can do the following, but I'll tell you when I get to that measure right here where things are specific, I got no choice. So,
That's my new favorite word now. Specificity.
yeah, that's a cool word, but yeah, that's a $15 mouthful of word.
There we go.
Yeah, that's tough. So here goes. 1, 2, 3. Bottom example. 1, 2, 3. I'm allowed to do what I want. 1, 2. I must go 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. This is the kind of thing where you hear a whole band do a kick. People call them kicks. Like everybody does a kick together in uniformity, usually.
Right.
It's probably this kind of notation that looks like a kick for everybody. And in your examples, that's the kind of thing you're going to hear. Some of them have a need for a mix of slash rhythm mixed in with slash notation. Some of them don't. Don't assume everyone does or does not have it. You just got to listen.
I got that now.
Cool. All right, so that's that. Where was I? Sheridan, how we do? Am I answering your questions?
Oh yes, I'm following along.
All right, good. So here's all the things you have to have. And this is just all the Sibelius setup. Honestly, like I said, if I can do it, You can do it. Just follow the steps carefully. Just honestly read through the directions. I'm not busting on you guys because you are the diligent students that, have been working hard and all that. And even if, students can't make it to the sessions, so many of you working so hard. But I do get assignments where I can tell nobody, the directions were not read. And quite frankly, I usually say, this thing that's missing is clearly stated in the directions. You gotta read them. So I'm not busting you guys. I'm just saying the directions are really like, here's how to get that every 4 bars, which honestly, I forget that myself. I have to look up periodically. That's your 4 bars on a line. This tells you how to get to slash rhythm. There you go. And down in this menu, it's beat without stem. That's slash rhythm. It's just basically it represents the beat, like I had said. And the next one, now your slashes, tells you how to cradle the slashes. You're just going to have to look out if you've chosen a track that has slash rhythm in it. You do want to put the chord symbols in. Make sure, let me if I can find that. Input the chord symbols. You have to select an item, and I can't do this because I'm not in Sibelius, but I would have to click on this, slash, have it highlighted, and then hit Command K. That specifically puts in a chord symbol. Sometimes I will get projects in which the students have placed text here. Placing text is not the same as putting in a chord symbol. And it creates, it creates other problems. So make sure you do use chord symbol, and that's all right here. If you have something played on an offbeat, for example, I just used an example of the and of 4, then you're going to choose what's going on, okay? Say it was a chord that was sounded on 3, and the and of 4, which isn't represented here, that's just beat 3 and 4 represented, right? So you're going to choose them and put them into, basically you're putting them into slash rhythm, right? You see that? You're choosing beat with stem, but it's still flattened. That's slash rhythm. It's just not the right rhythm yet because we need something that shows 3 and the and of 4. So that's the first step. Then you just go in and make these changes to the rhythm. You have to go back and flatten that puppy out. But this is a step-by-step how to make it slash rhythm. And there they are doing the tie. It's just step-by-step. Rehearsal marks. This is a bit of a misnomer. They aren't really, we use rehearsal marks, but rehearsal marks and form marks aren't the same thing. We're using the item that's called a rehearsal mark to show the form. And they really should just be called capital letters, not rehearsal marks. But within Sibelius, it's the easiest way to just go, hey, we're using rehearsal marks, but they aren't really rehearsal marks. They are capital letters that serve our purpose. Make sense? Okay. There you go. Blah. Just like a little more info on how it ends, how to put final measures in. There you go. I guess what you couldn't get, Jade, was to get this to all highlight. And that was just click the first one, hold shift down, click the last thing you want to do, and it's all going to go bye-bye. May I also suggest, before you delete anything, save. Save, save, save. Then you do your deletions in case you slip or delete something you didn't want to lose. Yeah, believe me, I'm the queen of like, oh wait, let me delete that. No, let me make sure I've saved everything. I can't tell you how many times I've closed a document and gone, no, don't save the changes. Just close and let me reopen it. It's sort of the cheat way to get around mistakes. Although Sibelius, Command Z is undo in a lot of programs, including Sibelius. Command Z will undo, and the level of undo is crazy. It'll go undo way back until the last point you saved. And just in general, you really should save quite frequently. But then the other downside to that is you might undo something you actually wanted to keep. So, yeah, this is just, naming the file properly, submitting it. Oh, you're going to export it as a PDF as well as, blah, 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 blah. Just read all this stuff. I want a PDF and a Sibelius file. You're going to compress and blah, blah, blah. That's just all that kind of stuff. Students often ask me, how can I tell the difference between a piece that's in 6/8 or 12/8? It's really pretty difficult, frankly. A lot of times what helps you is listening to a larger, you got to listen to more of the piece and listen to the harmonic rhythm. Okay, so in 6/8, if you're going one lolly, two lolly, 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 one lolly. That's 6/8.
Okay.
Okay? If I'm in 12/8, here, let me. I'm a visual learner, sorry. Okay, 6/8. Okay, so that's my, God, can you see over the glare? There you go. That's my unit of pulse. That's not the subdivision. I'm speaking the subdivision. One lolly, two lolly, one lolly, two lolly. Make sense? What I'm actually speaking is this, right? One lolly, two. That's the rhythm. One lolly, two lolly. Now this is rhythm two. One lolly, two lolly, one lolly, two. It just happens to match exactly where the beat falls and lasts as long as the beat. Make sense?
No. Repeat that last.
Okay. Do you remember in the first week?
One dotted and the second one's not dotted.
No, those are 3/8. Okay. Remember in the first week that I said there are no beats written here
Correct.
because you feel beats. What is written here is rhythm. Rhythm is just a set of written instructions telling you every time you actually do feel a beat, here's the kind of sounds you should make. This says when I subdivide, I'm going to have 3 smaller parts, but I'm not telling you to subdivide up front. I'm just telling you every time you feel a pulse, make a sound that begins right on the pulse and lasts as long at it. So here's my pulse, pulse. One lolly, two lolly, one lolly, two lolly. Make sense? Just a written direction saying match the pulse and last as long as it does. This is a new rhythm, a new set of written instructions. It says every time you feel a pulse, make 3 sounds that last as long as the pulse does, but make sure they're equally divided. That's why we use the one lolly, two lolly stuff. It just helps you get that right. So here's my pulse, pulse. One lolly, two lolly, one lolly, two lolly. Make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
All right, you're not just yeah mom in me, huh? Don't you love when your kids go, yes mom, yes mom, and you know they're like, yeah, they're just blowing you off. Let me make it a little clearer. Okay, if I do it this way, oops, I didn't dot that. Whoopsie.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to ask you.
I am so sorry. My bonehead move. My bad.
That's okay. I caught what you meant. So.
Okay, so now I tried to make it so that the first one occurred right where that one occurred too, but I divided the sound into 3 equal parts.
Got that.
Okay, so you got it. So now I forgot. Oh, how you indulge between this and 6/8? Really hard. 6/8 and 12/8. I can go like this. One lolly, two lolly, one lolly, two lolly, right? Or I can go one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, four lolly, one lolly, two lolly. Now I changed the tempo, and that's a bad example. Let me do it the same tempo. One lolly, two lolly, one lolly, two lolly. Or I can go one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, four lolly, one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, four lolly. When I'm in 12/8, you're basically just doubling what's going on here. Okay? That's why it's so hard to tell. Yes, they should sound the same. And often a lot of musicians you can't tell the difference whether you're in 12/8 or 6/8. I have written whole things out in 6/8 that were in 12/8 and vice versa. And I've even seen professionally, like you can buy sheet music where you'll get the same song either in 6/8 or 12/8. So if I'm in 12/8, I'm going one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, four lolly. Right? Okay? No bar line there. Oops. Helps if I put the 8 underneath. Duh. Make sense? No, it isn't. No, 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 no. Nope, nope, nope.
Nope.
This is one pulse. Pulse here. I go in 12, 8. 1, lolly. 2, lolly. 3, lolly. 4, lolly. If I do the same thing, put the little three Z's underneath.
Oh, 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 okay.
Because now I'm feeling four pulses in a measure, not just two in each measure. Now I have one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, four lolly. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and that really is hard to tell the difference, seriously. I've seen music both ways. And I've been surprised, like, wow, I have a copy of this in 6/8, and this person put it in 12/8. They sound really similar. Um,
Sometimes tell like with the melody because you might have 16th notes versus 8th notes in the melody line, or the bass might have more notes than because I know bass riffs you can go upscale and back down. Is it sometimes you can
oh,
tell
you do
within
have to do
that?
it. I am so sorry. Forgive me. I was looking for what I put up there and I missed your question. Please, I forgive me.
Right there.
Oh, okay.
There's more beats sometimes, not all the time, but there will be
N-
more beats in the melody.
Careful, careful, careful. I'm going to chase you down on your terminology because it can be very confusing, and I don't want you guys out in the real world saying things that confuse other people. Okay?
I didn't mean. Okay, more notes such as smaller division.
Gotcha. You perfect. That's the exact verbiage you need. There are always two beats in every measure. One, li, two, li, one ta la ta li ta two. So in other words, let me get rid of this. You can see both screens, can't you?
Yes.
Okay, good. It's like at this point, what do we got? 10 minutes left, and now I'm going. You can see both screens, can't you? Duh. That's why I'm telling you guys. If I can do the Sibelius setup, anybody can do it. Okay, so
That really helps. If you guys will open up a window with the directions and open up Sibelius at the same time, it is so simple.
gotcha. Um, okay, so I'm only.
I
Oh,
love your instruction, by the way. You make it fun and interesting, and
oh, thanks, Jade. I'm really
I
humbled.
yeah,
Thanks, you guys are the bomb.
we love your specificity.
I try. I remember banging my head like even though I've been playing for, since Jesus was a boy, I remember I remember banging my head on this stuff and people not explaining it to me very well. And just going, "What? Why can't I get this? Why don't I understand?" I am a huge fan of concept teaching.
It
And
really
I
is.
want you guys to like it's so funny. I say to my campus students, I'll say, "Here's the deal, guys. I want you to understand the concept." And the parallel to that is if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you
If you
teach
teach
him
them how
how
to
to
fish,
fish, you
you
feed
feed
him
them
for
for life.
life. So I joke with them that I will take you to my favorite fishing hole. I will show you where to get the best chunk of bamboo to make a pole. I will show you how to find the best leaf to turn into twine. I will show you a great spot to find shells that you can form into hooks. But I'm not giving you the damn fish. I will teach you everything I can to help you understand the concept so you don't need me. My job is to make myself obsolete as soon as I can so you guys can go forward and apply these concepts to everything because so much is formulaic. But as a side humorous note, one of the students at campus just looked up at me one day and went, "Just once, can't you give us the damn fish?" And I said, "No, no, I'm not giving you the fish." So anyway, here's this subdivision, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do, Jade, is go the next level. Basically, ooh, I need another color. Ooh, let's play art class. I'm going to go another color here. Just trying not to get too much marker all over my desk. I'm going to take, well, you won't be able to see. Each one of these guys, wait. Each one of these guys, can you see the green? I'm subdividing each one of these into two more parts, right?
Got it.
So now that gives me this.
It's like a human subdivision, just how we're gonna put more houses in there.
Yeah. So In other words, if I can do it this way, this guy, this is parallel to this one. That lines up with that one. And even though, because I have more notes written in, it doesn't quite spread out properly. Okay. So this guy was subdivided in two parts. This one is subdivided into these two parts. And this one was subdivided into those two parts. So in practice, this is where the one, la, li, that's where they hit. In other words, if I tied these two together, I'd still get one la, li. Because I tied the two sounds together and it's the same as doing that one. Make sense?
Yes.
So if I,
One margarita, two margarita.
that works too. And that's the only reason for those silly words. They really are just little pedagogical devices to help you get it right. If I went, hey, I got a pulse. Here's my pulse, pulse, pulse. Make 6 equally spaced sounds. I don't know about you, but I'm going, duh. I can't divide something into 6 equal spaces like that. That's what the silly little one to la to lita is for. So we're going one la. Here's my main pulse. 1, 2, 1, 2. First level. 1 la li, 2 la li, 1 la li, 2 la li. If I put a little t in between each one of these puppies, that's what we're doing here. That's why this goes 1 talata lita, 2 talata lita, 3 talata, and here you go right over here. Look here. 1 li 2 li 1 talata lita 2. Make sense? 1 talata lita, 1 la li, and what I need, I don't have it here. Let me see if I have it in next week. What is helpful, sometimes I'll show well, this one is pretty easy to see. That's where it is. Wait. Anyway, you're basically, if I were to insert, I could put an eighth note here, an eighth note here, an eighth note there, because 2/16 tied is an eighth. 2/16 tied would be an eighth here, and these 2/16, if I tied them, equals to an eighth. In other words, if I tied these two, and then tie these two, and tie these two, it's the same as this figure. Eighth, eighth, eighth. Make sense?
Yes.
Cool. How do we get to that point? I forget why. Oh, Jade, you had asked some question about along these lines.
I got it now.
Cool. Good. Good, good, good. Good question. Chords can either be major, minor, augmented, or diminished triads, right? There are no other options. I got a couple assignments where people were going through the diatonic triads and were calling the 7-chord triad a minor diminished, and I was here face palming. There is no such thing. It's either minor or it's diminished.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how that verbiage got into anybody's vocabulary. I have my suspicions, but let me just say, number one, it's all good. No, it's no mama slap here. It's all good. There is no such thing. It's either minor or diminished, one or the other.
I mean, I know the difference as far as the notes you're playing.
Okay. Well, I honestly think that that's where the confusion came in, because a diminished triad is 2 stacked minor thirds. And I think everybody gets in the mindset of it. It's got to be a minor third. It's got to be a minor third. It's got to be a minor, 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 minor third, minor diminished. No, it's just a diminished triad. So that's what I'm thinking the path is, because I came across it a couple times in this week's assignments. So not a big deal, not so unusual, but you know the right thing now.
Yes. Yeah, I don't care where I was, I care where I'm going. So
There you go.
that was all of mine, but you got it.
Sweet, good. Yeah, and so let me hunt a little bit of that down with you. Anybody? Where in a major key is the diminished triad? Formulaic is going to be the same place. In birthday cake major, Sheridan. Where's the seventh? Where's the diminished triad in birthday cake major?
Oh, you talking in a major?
Birthday cake major, because it's formulaic. Where is the diminished triad? I think you said it.
Then
Yeah, you go, girl. Absolutely. It's the seven chord. Is always diminished because it's a formula. Make sense?
yeah.
Okay, now remember that a diminished, uh, excuse me, sorry, wrong thing. Undo, Command Z, Command Z. Remember that a minor key is always related to a major key. That you use the same set of notes and you just go to a different tonic as your new center of attention, right? It's the sixth scale degree and it gives everything a minor flavor, right?
Yeah.
Keep in mind that when you do that, your new tonic chord in the minor key used to be the sixth chord in its relative major. And it is a minor triad. That's why in the minor tonic, it's a minor chord. Make sense? You with me? You hanging?
That I lost you, but
Okay. If I'm in C major, let's think in, pardon me, let's think in absolute pitch. That'll help you even better. If I'm in C major, what's the relative minor key?
A minor.
A minor. Okay. So what I'm saying is when I'm in A minor, it's the one chord. And when I was back in C major, A minor was the sixth chord.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So keep in mind when I'm in A minor and I move to the two chord in A minor,
That was
that,
what I meant to go to.
say again? What'd you say, Chris? When I'm in A minor, the two chord in A minor used to be the seven chord when I was in C major. What's the quality of the seven chord in C major? What's the quality of the seven chord in C major?
Major.
In C major, what's the quality of the seven chord? Sheridan just answered.
Diminished.
Diminished, correct. So now that in C and sorry, in A minor specifically, B diminished is now the two chord. And the two chord is always going to be diminished because it uses the same formulaic set of notes that came from C major. Just that now we're in A minor. Now remember, the same notes are used and the chords have relationships between the major and its relative minor. But remember, if you're using natural minor or if you're using harmonic minor, things can get a little jinkified. Remember, we throw that leading tone in, the seventh scale degree gets raised a half step, and that changes your five chord and your seven chord when you use the leading tone in the harmonic minor.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now.
Cool. Well, there's a little more reference to that coming up as we move along, but don't worry about that a whole lot. It'll get reinforced again as the month goes on, especially when we talk about borrowed chords. Cool.
I'm good.
All right, who do I have? I have a bunch of people, but not everybody is showing up as turned on, which is okay. Um, it's 5:01. On my screen, I can see whether you have your mic open or whatever. That's what I mean. Tuned in and turned on, baby. That is like I'm dating myself on that one. That was like a 70s thing. Yes, I'm old. See, gray hair. See it? I'm old.
I obviously did too, because I was right there.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, ladies and gents, it's 5:02. I'm out of here. You good?
All right.
Last shot for a question, I mean.
I had a question.
Latifa, go, girl, go.
Okay, so switching back to rhythm, because
Yes, ma'am.
compound meter, I am like acing along. I don't know why, but simple meter
Yes, ma'am.
is now becoming my Achilles heel. So
Oh, let me give you a really
compound.
I gotcha. Let me give you a really interesting trivia thing about why probably compound meter is floating along for you. Um, I studied a specific methodology for how to teach music because I taught kids. And basically, the research indicates that it doesn't matter whether you're an adult or not. All humans learn music the same way. So I use the same methodology, but I kick it up because you're all adults. Anyway, within that methodology, some of the research indicates that whatever your native language is can be reflective of certain rhythms,
Mhm.
and some languages and their musical culture reflect different rhythms. The methodology that I learned was developed by a Hungarian, and apparently, I don't speak Hungarian, but Hungarian is very duple based choppy. One and two and three and four and. If you think about it, Shakespeare is iambic tetrameter, which is da 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 da. English functions a lot of the time in iambic tetrameter. In other words, we don't actually sing songy like that, but a lot of English language comes across with long, short, 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 long, which is one, lead two, lead one, la, lead two. That's probably why it's a little easier. Side note. Anyway, that doesn't help you. Your problem is you're having more challenges with simple meter now, Latifa?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, One of the reasons that 4/4, on the other hand, is so common, why the big old C is the same thing as 4/4 because it's such a common time, is we are, I got two of these, but at the feet end, we're bipedal.
Okay.
And so a lot of like marching band, you're going one, two, three, four. Even dividing into two eighth notes helps us, our physicality supports that because we got 2 feet, we can divide into two more easily. So I don't know what to tell you except perhaps getting it into your physicality because of that will help.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, seriously, pick up. I can't think of his name. Khalif. Tell me your son's name.
Come on.
Kalani. Pick up Kalani and march around.
Okay.
And seriously, move just on beats. One,
Okay.
two, three, four. Then move on one and two and three and four and that's eighth notes. Then move it to 4/16ths. One E and a two E and a three E and a, you'll have to slow the tempo down or and you'll get exercise too. It's good for your heart.
I think that's what it is putting it into the pulse.
Yeah, try and insert some physicality to it. You might not have a lot of time to do that, but hopefully that'll help because even though they're kids, and I know you guys are adults, when you're teaching kids, especially the younger the kid, the more physical you are.
Yes.
Because you spend time helping them establish what it's like to have a steady pulse. Generally, little kids can't keep one. Um, right. And so, you spend a lot of times with just activities in which, like, you do stuff like, okay, kid you not, chop, chop. Oh, that's 6/8. Never mind. That won't help you. It's in English and it's chopped. It's 6/8. I'm trying to think of an activity that was simple meter, and very few of them are. Whatever. Um, we did a lot of activities in which you just simply tapped on a beat or tapped on a subdivision of the beat.
Okay. That's what I will do.
All right, and let me know. Message me. Let me know how it's going. If you need, I'm like, don't wait till the to the sessions or once a week. Let me know.